Alright guys, welcome back. This is round 2 of the Turn V8 Supercars here at Long Beach this week. This is going to be a pretty grueling track. This is definitely a concrete jungle here. We'll just mute that there. Right then, I've got in the commentating booth with me, we've got Ryan Shelton here. Say hello, Ryan.
Oh, hey. Hey, guys. How's it going?
All right, so we're going to get this straight in here. They are already in qualifying. This is 20 minutes of qualifying. We wanted to get this underway as quickly as possible. Broadcast is a little bit secondary during qualifying, but we'll get right in here. There we go. We've got the cars on. Turn those down a little bit there. All right, so this should be a pretty interesting week. Ryan, we've got a very short track here, but definitely very vulnerable for these cars to go wide, run into some concrete, maybe take out a tire barrier or something like that. It's going to be really tough, I think. People push it here and they end up in the wall.
Yeah, the thing about this track mostly, the turn 1 exit, that wall is going to hit more than a few people. But the problem spot for this track is going to be the fountain and just getting on the gas, especially coming out of turn 5. That's going to be where you're going to see most of the mistakes come, and that's where you're going to see most of the passes come from mistakes coming out of turn 5, and also hitting the fountain. You lose more time than you would think just by hitting that grass there on the right side. But that's going to be the two major spots, and also maybe the tire barrier coming onto the back stretch. That's going to be a problem spot. If somebody hits that and you got somebody close to it, it's going to cause a pretty large wreck. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but there's definitely a couple of definitely more foot paces this week versus last week for passing.
Yeah, absolutely. Currently we've got TPR Zermatt on top already, a 1:22.940. Pretty incredible time, honestly. Go back to his teammate Viora Marth, also in the Volvo. A little bit of a spin there, Viora Marth.
These guys still have just about, looks to be about 12 minutes left on the clock.
Actually, it looks like 14 minutes remaining for them. They will run straight through. Qualifying right now is TPR Zermatt, BAM A6, F4H Diablo, F4H Miko, J Parrot 46, new driver for Vixen Racing. We got VOR Marth in 6th, BAM Mist in 7th, BG Wumba 8th, BAM Osif in 9th. Sorry Smithy rounds out the top 10. Let you know, Sorry Smithy in 10th is a 1:25.098. So it's going to be really tough here, I think.
And I think once these people start putting down, once the drivers start putting down faster lap times, you'll start seeing the top, obviously the top guys are going to start to shine. Here is going to be, there's definitely going to be more of a gap when it comes to the slower cars versus the faster cars in comparison to last week, as this track has a lot more skill involved in it, especially when you're going onto the brakes and going onto the gas. Pretty much every braking point here at this track is a very hard braking point. Whereas last week, there's a few spots here and there you can kind of get away with just doing half brake or half throttle. This one's more geared towards hitting your brake as hard as you can, as late as you can. You're going to see a lot of lockups.
Yeah, very abrupt. Right, so let's take a look now. We're nearly halfway in. TPR Zermatt still leads with that 122.940. Next nearest is BAM A6. It's about 2/10 behind with a 123.182. And about 3/10 behind that, we've got his teammate Viora Marth has moved up to third, and their third driver, J Parrott 46, with a 123.774, another 3/10 back. Hot on his heels, F4H Diablo. So really, other than the TPR team there from Vixen Racing, we've got BAM and F4H Diablo. Other than that, it seems people are struggling to get below the 124s.
Yeah, when I had hopped on a couple times this week, just kind of doing some laps, and I noticed, I mean, with the base setup that the cars are given, getting into the 25s was insanely hard. I mean, you had to have an absolutely perfect lap. So once you put a setup on it, and then you get some of these drivers who are just unbelievable, that's where you're going to start seeing the skill outweigh driver setup or even practice. I mean, some of these guys just have a natural ability to get these cars stopped and turned and get out of the corner better than just about anybody else, really. I think the biggest challenge that's going to be coming up is going to be that 45-minute reverse grid race. That's going to be definitely the biggest challenge you're going to see, especially for these faster guys. They're going to have to play a game of patience so they don't, run everybody over, but you don't want to damage your car going into, the pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of the challenge with any of these fast guys, is having the patience to wait out that pass. And really, this is probably going to be the hardest track on the calendar to pass at.
Second Dakota. Dakota was definitely a hard place to pass because you have 2 passing points on the entire track, really. That's going into the backstretch and also going into turn 1. Here you have a few more places, especially turn 1 is going to be a big one, going down that backstretch, and then also coming off turn 5. That's going to be the 3 major passing points going into turn 6. There's going to be your 3 major passing points. The rest of the track, you can kind of get away if you sneak it in there. But with Dakota, you really only had about 2 passing points, maybe 3 if you really want to get cheeky with it. But this track it's a little bit more open. Now, I mean, there's walls covering it, except not just a parking lot, but it's a little more. The actual track surface is a little wider per se. So making a pass here is going to be a little bit easier than Coda, but looking at the rest of the schedule, it's definitely going to be a little bit harder.
Yeah, I think honestly these first 2 tracks are the hardest.
Yeah, well, especially when you're looking at driver skill and getting these cars, who can get these cars to hook up the best. These first 2 tracks are definitely going to show who's going to be the front runners for the rest of the year.
I think we're going to switch over to riding on board with BAM A6 here. Also a very consistent, fast runner here. He's coming up to turn 1 at the moment. Track limits have been clarified here that the double blue, the double yellow, are the track limits, so they can't go wider than that. Now, there are some series that allow you to go really wall-to-wall here, but for safety reasons, I think we've issued that is off-track during the normal racing line, simply because it can interfere with people exiting the pits during the race. If it's illegal during the race, it's illegal during qualifying.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we need to watch out for when they're coming out of the pits. Just make sure that these guys, that while they're the best of the best, they're always making mistakes. We want to make sure safety's number 1. You don't want to have them crashing coming out of the pits and there be an argument later on.
Right. Now the other corner they're going to want to push it at, they're going to want to test the limits, is turn 5. That is the right-hander. It's just 2 turns after the fountain section. There's no declared white line there. We'll see it here in just a little bit on BAM A6, but there's a line of sausage curbing, which is secondary curbing. It's not primary. It's not like a rumble strip or anything like that. It's not just a raised curb. It is like a full bolted down speed bump that is intended to keep drivers out of that area. Typically we see these on the inside of normal rumble strips or primary curbing, but you're going to see it coming up here in just a second. BAM A6 turns round 4. Here they are. Now the thought is you cannot cross all 4 tires over those rumble strips, so that's going to be carefully looked at after this race. If anybody is found to have set their fastest time on those while crossing those, any of these track limits, exceeding the track limits, they're going to get a 10-place grid penalty in the next race. There's really too much to review right before we head into this particular race, but rest assured it will be addressed.
Yeah, and that sausage curbing up, I do know if you run it too inside, it will give you an invalid lap time, but there is a fine line between getting an advantage through there, because there is a very big advantage from going on that, because that's an off-camber exit, and if you go on the right side of the track, it's flat, so it's a lot easier to get on the gas. And so if you do happen to catch that line just absolutely perfect, what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to get out of that corner much quicker and allow you to actually gain more than you would expect to gain. And so we want to make sure we, taking that into consideration also.
Yeah, these guys are generally doing very well with turn 1 limits here as we're on board with F4H Diablo. Very respectful of the double blue. I haven't seen anybody really pushing that. But it's that turn 5, like I said, that they're trying to make as much as they possibly can. Looks like a bit of a cut there from Diablo. Hopefully this isn't his quickest lap.
Yeah, and like I said, turn 5 that's where a lot of mistakes are going to happen. You're going to see a lot of guys get loose coming out of that corner. They're going to heat up those rear tires, and they're just going to. You're going to see somebody make a pass going into turn 6 more than once.
This is going to be really interesting because this is the critical point in this race weekend. I think is qualifying right here.
Yeah, and well, it's going to set up you well for that sprint race. But you want to make sure that you're doing the most you can in that sprint race to get the most amount of points, because it is equal points between the sprint and the enduro race.
Just going to cut you off right there
race.
real quick. BAM A6 has moved up to, he is second, but his time has moved up to a 1:22.912, only 4/1000ths of a second off of TPR Zermatt. So the battle for the front is alive, and really with only 4 minutes left, you kind of wonder whether he's just done it. He's just done it just then as we're talking about. BAM A6 now a 1:22.826 moves him into first, ahead of TPR Zermatt.
Diablo goes third with a 23.1.
We've also got BAM Mist there in fourth. So currently the running order, BAM A6 13, 1:22.826. Just behind him is TPR Zermatt in second. Third, F4H Diablo. Fourth is BAM Mist. F4H Miko fifth. VOR Martha slid to sixth. BAM Osef is seventh. BG Wumba eighth. J Parrott 46 is ninth, and F4H Crux is 10th. This qualifying has really erupted in the last couple of minutes here.
Yeah, and these guys are starting to catch on and try to put down their fastest laps here at the very, very end. It looks like they're starting to get into a rhythm. I'm honestly surprised nobody took a pit stop to get new tires and see if they couldn't run, one really, really fast lap on a brand new set of tires.
There's going to be, tire wear will play a factor here, but when these cars can only do about 24 minutes or so on fuel, you're definitely going to be running out of fuel before you run out of tires. However, Forza 6 is much harder on tires, much harder on fuel than it has been in previous games. The tire wear is also increased. You see in Forza 5 or even Forza 4, you wouldn't see tires transition to a yellow or quote-unquote damaged or worn state until 50% or 60%. And now you see it at 17.4%. It's kind of an odd number, but that is the number that designates when your tires start to degrade and come off of that optimum grip. So you're absolutely right. They're probably well beyond that now. You have 2 minutes left in qualifying.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to just wrap my head around. I was just trying to figure out, if you've had a couple of laps thrown together, pit with, what you would think would be 2 or 3 laps left, and then try to see if you couldn't go out there and throw down a really, really quick lap. And I think that may be able to help out some of these guys, but it looks like they're just going to stay out on track and just do the whole 20 minutes, because that's going to be a full fuel run for that 45-minute race.
If anybody dirtied their lap on the, like in the last sector, that would be a prime time to just scoop into the pits, take just a couple of seconds to change out for tires, and then maybe that last lap there would be hot. But at this point,
yeah, it's a little too late now.
Right, not much time left on the track. We do see a couple of tires spread out here and there. Bit of a spin there in turn, what would that be? That would be 7. Not sure who that was off to the side of the road. Right on board with Sorry Smithy. He is in the pits. Must be calling it. I'm going to switch then to F4H Miko. Finishing up his lap. We're going to switch then to F4H Lightning. We have 13 seconds left, so this is pretty much it. And that's it. All right, so we're going to tally up qualifying here, and we'll be back in roughly a half an hour for the race. Take it easy, guys.